Deutsche Bank CEO Christian Sewing got a vote of confidence from Capital Group, but you were already confident in this turnaround plan by Deutsche Bank. And we know that in October of 2018, you disclosed a 3.14% stake in that holding. I'm curious, now that there are more people flocking to Deutsche Bank, what kind of changes are you thinking about when it comes to your stake? Is your next move to add, to trim, and what kind of time horizon are you thinking of?
Well, Scarlet, you may recall I was back on this show about 7 or 8 months ago when Christian unveiled his transformation plan. And what I said at the time is we're very long-term investors, and the opportunity set for us over the long term for Deutsche Bank is quite exciting. And what's happened in the intervening 6 or 7 months is the management team has further refined that plan. They held a very impactful investor day in Frankfurt in December. And they've announced their fourth quarter results that already begin to show them demonstrating successful execution on the key parameters of that plan. So we think the best for Deutsche Bank, quite frankly, is yet to come.
So, but when you look at the share performance, there was obviously a little bit of skepticism about how far Saving was going to go, whether the plan was going to work out.
Sure.
Obviously, the Capital Group, a big endorsement of the bull thesis here. Have you talked to any other large investors about how they feel about the progress so far?
Well, we focus mostly on how we feel about the investment. We certainly actually engage with a number of potential new investors because we think one of the nice possible prospects of Capital Group joining the share register is one of the opportunity sets is Deutsche Bank relative to its European bank peers and US bank peers was underweight long-term fundamental investors. So we find the Capital Group position, we hope to be the first of many that will really change the composition of the ownership base. It will be more long-term investors that give the company the support and the time they need to really execute on those plans. But I want to say, Romaine, one of the really important early day indications of success since I was here 7 months ago is in that fourth quarter call. The company made their expense numbers for 2019. They actually did better in terms of their capital. They have a Tier 1 common ratio of 13.6%. Materially above what the street had expected. And third, and perhaps most importantly, the business, that core banking businesses that they want to continue with, those revenues have stabilized, and in fact, in some of the businesses have begun to show signs of growth. So we're really excited about the early days of this restructuring.
So in that same earnings report, Deutsche Bank booked a 31% jump in fixed income trading. We heard from the firm that it aims to be profitable on a pre-tax basis this year. Is that 31% jump in FICC trading sustainable, or should we be relying on other parts of the bank to drive growth? Sure.
So part of this year's profitability estimates, as they talked about in their investor day, Scarlet, is really a very modest growth in revenue. So the top line is only expected to grow 1 or 2%. It's really a cost story. So over the next several years, the company is going to take $2.5 billion out of cost, and almost all of that cost is in merger integration in the private bank and the middle and back office of the investment bank. So this year, on a core bank basis, the business returned, adjusted for all of these one-time costs, about 4 to 5% return on tangible common equity. If you just add those cost saves, they're close to their 8% target. So it's really less a revenue story, and it is much more a self-help cost story.
So where do you see, though, the structure of Deutsche Bank being in the future? Is it going to be an investment bank? Is it going to be a retail bank? An asset manager, all of the above? I mean, what is the future of Deutsche Bank?
So one of the important parts that I talked about when the company first announced the transformation is Deutsche Bank is really returning to its roots and anchoring its strategic future in the businesses where it has sustainable competitive advantage. So think about the core of that as the leading commercial bank in the largest economy in Europe, 1 million Mittelstand commercial bank clients, and a fixed income platform that services those clients' global needs for business. And the second piece of that is the largest retail bank, private bank in Germany. And then the third, as you mentioned, Romaine, is a wonderful asset manager.
Yeah.
And that's really the core. It's more comparable to a BNP or a SocGen going forward than it is a JPMorgan or a Goldman Sachs.
Interesting. Now, speaking of Goldman Sachs, I wanted to get your read on that firm because we know Goldman held its first investor day not long ago. It seems to be kind of struggling to hold on to some key top executives. Do you think this is just fallout from transition to new leadership under David Solomon, or is there something more going on?
Yeah, I think Goldman is a terrific firm, and I'm not sure that I want to focus on the specifics. What I will say is that as I thought about the investment in Deutsche Bank, one of the things that Deutsche Bank has as competitive advantage is huge access to deposit funding. Almost 600 billion euros of deposits on their balance sheet at the end of the year. That comes from the global corporate bank, and that comes from the retail franchise. And one of the transitions I think that all banks have to do, including Goldman, is to find those stable sources of funding. So I think that's the future for banking, is to find those stable, attractive costs of funding. And one of the things I love about the Deutsche Bank investment is that is a core strength and competency that they can build on.
All right, one other bank we have to ask you about is JPMorgan, and obviously, I know you're the evangelist for Deutsche Bank here, but I mean we have to look at this in the broader context of who they're competing against. JPMorgan, obviously, the 800-pound gorilla by a lot of different measures. There's some concern about Jamie Dimon's longevity. He's been there for quite some time. The board is consistent of folks who some people think may have sort of been there a little bit too long. Does JPMorgan really need to change its stripes at this point?
So I think JPMorgan is a spectacular, best in class. I'm going to come back again, Romaine, to why I've been an evangelist for Deutsche. The U.S. banks trade on average at 1.5 times tangible book. JPMorgan today trades at 2.3 times tangible book. Deutsche Bank trades at 0.4 times tangible book, and its European peers trade at 0.8. So I love JPMorgan. I think it is a spectacular company with spectacular leadership. I actually spent 20 years there.
20 years, excuse me.
And so it's a wonderful company. As an investor, the exciting part for me is if Deutsche Bank just gets to the European peer average, the price will have doubled from here. And that's, as an investor today, what I'm looking forward to.
And just real quickly, the rate environment they were in, which is in a lot of places a negative rate environment, is that going to be conducive to reaching his goals?
Yeah, so the good part is that the investor day in Frankfurt, the German 10-year was minus 40 or almost minus 50 basis points at the time. So the plan that Christian and his management team have put in place build off of the current rate environment. And one of the nice things I would say about Deutsche is it is the most levered because of its deposit base to upside in the event that rates rise. The plan does not require that, but it will be a wonderful outcome if the environment changes.
So Deutsche Bank now trading at about 9.4 euros, right near a 15-month high. Where do you see it trading by the end of the year?
Again, I'm thinking long term. And as I said, if all the bank does is execute over the next year or two on its plan, it should trade at least, if not above, its peer set in Europe. And that's a lot of upside.